My name is Natalie. I am 29 years old. One day, I got sick. I did not know it would change my life. I did not know it would show me the truth about the man I lived with. That man was Brian. We lived together for 3 years. I met Brian at a small shop. I needed help with my car. He worked at the shop. He smiled at me and asked if I needed help. He looked kind and calm. I liked him. We started talking. A few weeks later, we went to eat lunch together. After that, we spent more time together. We walked in the park. We drank coffee. He asked me many questions. I liked talking to him. After 5 months, he said, "Do you want to move in with me?" I said yes. We were happy at first. I cleaned the house. I cooked dinner. I went to work. I always came home early to make tea for him. He worked at the car shop. He worked all day. He came home at night. He liked food and rest. I gave him both. I thought we loved each other. I did not see any problem. I did not know what was coming. One day, I felt cold. My head was hot. I felt weak. I said, "Maybe I have a fever." I went to the bathroom. I looked in the mirror. My face looked red. I lay down on the bed. I waited for Brian to come home. When he came in, I said, "I do not feel good." He looked at me and said, "You are okay. Just sleep." Then he sat on the sofa and watched TV. I was sad, but I thought maybe he was tired. I slept early. In the night, I woke up. I was sweating. My body felt hot. My back hurt. I looked at the clock. It was 2 a.m. I walked to the kitchen. I drank water. Brian was sleeping. I wanted to ask for help, but I did not want to wake him. In the morning, I could not go to work. I called my boss. I said, "I am sick. I cannot come today." My boss said, "Okay. Get well soon." I stayed in bed. I did not cook. I did not clean. I just slept. Brian came home in the evening. He looked at the kitchen. There was no food. He said, "What did you do all day?" I said, "I was in bed. I feel very sick." He did not say anything. He made eggs for himself. He ate and went to sleep. He did not bring me food. He did not ask how I felt. The next day, I was still sick. My head hurt. My body was weak. I got out of bed. I walked slowly to the kitchen. I found some bread. I made toast and ate it. Brian came in and said, "So now you are fine?" I said, "No. I just needed food." He did not say anything. I sat at the table. I felt sad. I wanted him to care. But he did not ask about my day. He just looked at his phone. On the 3rd day, I felt a little better. My fever went down. I washed some dishes. I made tea. I cleaned the table. I moved slowly. I did not want to get more sick. When Brian came home, I gave him a cup of tea. He drank it and said nothing. I asked, "Do you think I look better?" He said, "Yes. Now you can cook again." I looked at him. I did not smile. I felt like crying, but I did not cry. I went to the bedroom and sat on the bed. I thought, why is he like this? Why is he not kind to me? I remembered the first days when we laughed. I remembered the walks, the coffee, the good talks. Now, he did not talk much. He only came home, ate, and looked at his phone. I asked myself, was he always like this? Or did I not see it before? I went back to work after 2 more days. My friend at work asked, "Are you okay now?" I said, "Yes, but I still feel tired." She asked, "Did Brian take care of you?" I smiled and said nothing. I did not want to lie. I also did not want to tell the truth. That day at work, I made many mistakes. I forgot to send an email. I lost a file. My boss asked, "Do you need more time to rest?" I said, "No, I just need to sleep well tonight." I went home early. Brian was not there yet. I made soup for both of us. I cleaned the floor. I sat on the sofa and waited. When he came home, I said, "I made soup." He said, "Good. I'm hungry." He ate fast and said, "You forgot salt." I looked at him. I wanted to say something. I wanted to say, I tried my best, but I did not speak. I just cleaned the bowls and put them in the sink. That night, I lay in bed and looked at the wall. I could not sleep. I thought about the days when I was sick. I thought about how Brian acted. I thought about what love means. I asked myself, if I get very sick one day, what will he do? Will he walk away? Will he leave me alone? I did not like the answer in my mind. I wanted to believe he was tired or busy, but I knew the truth. When I needed him, he did not care. He did not ask, "How can I help?" He did not bring water or food. He did not say kind words. He said nothing. In the morning, I felt cold again. I took a deep breath and told myself, I will go to work. I will not cry. I went to the bus stop. It was raining. I had no umbrella. My coat was wet. I got on the bus. I sat near the window and looked outside. The rain made me think more. I thought, if he loved me, he would try. Even one small thing. Even one cup of tea. Even one smile. I got to work and started my tasks. My friend came to me and said, "You still look sick." I said, "I know, but I have to work." She gave me a sweet and said, "Eat this. Maybe it will help." I smiled. That one sweet felt warmer than all the days at home with Brian. That evening when I walked into the house, Brian was on the sofa. He looked at me and said, "You look bad. Are you sick again?" I said, Yes, a little, he said. Then don't give me your cold. He got up and walked to the other room. He closed the door. I stood there, holding my bag. I felt like I was not in a home. I felt like I was in a place with no love. I went to the kitchen. I made tea for myself. I sat at the table and drank slowly. I said to myself, this is not how love should feel. In that moment, I saw it clearly. My sickness showed me the truth. It showed me his real heart. I am sharing my story, hoping they reach someone. Are you there? Are you listening? Just knowing you're here means everything. The next morning, I woke up early. I felt tired. My body was weak again. I sat on the bed for a long time. I looked at the wall. I thought, I do not want to live like this. I stood up slowly and walked to the kitchen. I made tea and some toast. Brian was still in bed. I sat at the table and ate my toast. I looked at the clock. It was almost time for work. I got ready and left the house. At work, my mind was not clear. I made small mistakes again. My boss asked, "Do you need more time to rest?" I said, "No, I'm okay." But I was not okay. I was not just sick in my body. I felt sad in my life. My heart did not feel full. I felt like something important was missing. My friend at work said, "You look very tired. You should take care of yourself." I smiled and said, "Thank you." But I wanted to say more. I wanted to say, at home, no one takes care of me. I take care of myself. After work, I walked home slowly. I stopped at a small shop to buy food. I picked apples, bread, and some milk. I paid the man at the counter and left. The street was quiet. I liked the quiet. I needed time to think. I thought about my life before I met Brian. I was alone, but I was not sad. I had peace. I had my own space. I watched my own shows. I made food when I wanted. I cleaned when I wanted. No one shouted. No one made me feel small. I asked myself, was I happier back then? When I got home, Brian was on the sofa. The TV was loud. He looked at me and said, "What took you so long?" I said, "I stopped at the shop." He did not say anything after that. I went to the kitchen and put the food away. I made pasta for dinner. I put 2 plates on the table. I called him to eat. He came, sat, and ate in silence. I asked, "How was your day?" He said, "Same as always." Then he said nothing more. After dinner, I washed the dishes. Brian sat in the living room again. I cleaned the table and wiped the floor. Then I sat in the bedroom. I did not want to talk. I just wanted to sit. I looked at the wall and thought, why do I feel like this every day? I used to smile more. I used to laugh with friends. Now, I felt quiet all the time. Not peaceful quiet, sad quiet. I looked at my phone. No new messages. No calls. I put it down and lay on the bed. The next day was the same. I worked, came home, made food, cleaned. Brian ate and said nothing. He did not ask how I felt. He did not say thank you. I started to notice everything. I noticed how he looked at his phone more than he looked at me. I noticed how he never helped with anything. He did not wash a dish. He did not clean the floor. He just lived in the house like a guest. One night I wanted to talk. I said, "Brian, can we talk?" He looked at me and said, "About what?" I said, "About us. About how things feel now." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "When I was sick, I felt alone. I felt like you did not care." He said, "You were just sick. Why do you make it a big thing?" I said, "Because I needed help, and you were not there." He said, "I had work. I was tired too." I said, "Yes, but I cook and clean even when I'm tired." He stood up and said, "If you want to fight, I'm not staying here." Then he walked out of the room. I sat on the bed again. I looked at the floor. I felt like I was not seen, like I was just someone who cleaned and cooked, not someone he loved. I remembered the early days when he smiled at me. I remembered the walks in the park. I asked myself, was that real? Or was I just hoping it was real? I did not have the answer, but I knew I felt different now. I felt like a person who gave love, but did not get it back. The next few days were quiet again. I did not try to talk. I did my work. I came home. I cooked. I ate alone. Brian ate later. He watched TV and then slept. We did not speak much. It felt like we were two people in the same house, but not in the same life. One night, I sat at the kitchen table after dinner. I did not want to clean. I just sat and looked at my tea. It was warm in my hands, but inside I felt cold. I thought, what if I get sick again? Will I be alone again? Will I have to make my own food and clean everything with a fever? I remembered how hard it was that week. I remembered the pain in my back and the heat in my head. I remembered sitting at the table, eating toast alone. And I remembered the words he said, cold words, not kind words. I looked around the house. It was clean. I kept it that way, but it did not feel like a home. It felt like work. I cooked, cleaned, smiled, but there was no love here. There was no care. I thought, if he gets sick, will I help him? I said to myself, yes, I will. Because that is what love means. You stay. You help. You care. Even when you are tired. Even when it is hard. Love is not only for good days. it is for bad days too. I went to bed early. I could not sleep. I turned left, then right. My body was tired, but my mind was full. I thought about my mother. She once said, "When people show you who they are, listen." I did not understand that before, but now I did. Brian showed me who he was when I got sick, and I listened. The next morning, I did not make tea. I did not make breakfast. I got dressed and left the house early. I walked to the park before work. The air was cold, but the sun was out. I sat on a bench and looked at the trees. The leaves were green. Birds flew above me. It was quiet. I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath. For the first time in weeks, I felt a little peace. I thought about my life again. I asked myself, is this how I want to live? I felt tired all the time, not just in my body, but in my mind too. I was not happy. I gave everything, and I got nothing back. Brian did not try. He did not care. When I was sick, he walked away. He did not bring water. He did not say, "Are you okay?" That was not love. That was not care. That was not the life I wanted. At work, I was quiet. My friend came to my desk and said, "You look better today." I smiled and said, "Yes, thank you." She sat beside me and asked, "Are you happy at home?" I looked at her. I wanted to lie, but I said, "No, not really." She put her hand on mine and said, "You deserve better." That evening, I walked home slowly. I looked at each house on the street. I looked at windows with lights and people inside. Some were laughing. Some were cooking. I felt like I was outside looking in. I thought, I want to feel warm like that. I want to feel safe. I did not feel safe with Brian. I felt small. I felt cold. When I opened the door, Brian was on the sofa again. The TV was loud. He looked at me and said, "What's for dinner?" I said, "I'm not cooking tonight." He frowned. He said, "Why not?" I said, "I don't feel like it." He looked angry. He stood up and said, "You live here. You need to cook. That's how it works." I looked at him. I said, "I lived here when I was sick, but I cooked for myself." "You did nothing." He said, "That's in the past." I said, "No, it's not. I remember everything." I walked to the bedroom and closed the door. I sat on the bed. I looked at the small bag in the corner. I pulled it out. I started to pack. A few clothes, my shoes, my charger, my toothbrush. I did not cry. I did not shake. I was calm. I was sure. I was not angry. I was just done. I waited until he went to sleep. Then I took my bag and walked out. I did not look back. I walked to my friend's house. She lived 5 streets away. When she opened the door, she looked surprised. I said, "Can I stay here for a few days?" She said, "Yes." "Come in." We sat in her kitchen. She made tea. I told her everything. About my fever. About Brian. About the cold nights. About the food I made with a weak body. She listened. She did not speak. She just looked at me. Then she said, "You did the right thing. You are brave." That night, I slept in a small bed with warm blankets. It was quiet. I closed my eyes and felt safe. No loud TV, no cold voice, no silence full of pain, just peace, just a soft pillow and the sound of my breath. In the morning, I woke up early. I made breakfast for my friend. She smiled and said, "Thank you." That one word made me feel more love than all my days in Brian's house. After breakfast, I went to work. I felt light. I moved fast. I smiled more. My friend at work said, "You look different today." I said, "Yes, I feel free." Days passed. I did not call Brian. He did not call me. I did not wait for his voice. I did not want it. I was done waiting for care. I was done asking for love. I started to look for a new place. I found a small room with a big window. It was not perfect, but it was mine. I cleaned it. I put flowers on the table. I made tea each evening. I sat by the window and watched the sky. I felt calm. One weekend, my mother came to see me. She sat on my bed and said, "You look happy." I said, "I am." She said, "I was worried, but now I see you are okay." I said, "I left because I was sick, and he left me too. He just stayed in the same house, but he was not there, not in the way that matters." She looked at me and said, "You are strong." I smiled. I did not feel strong before. I felt small and tired, but now I felt new. I had pain, yes, but I also had peace. I learned something important. Love is not just words. It is not just smiles. It is what people do when things go bad. Love is care. Love is help. Love is kind. I never got a message from Brian. No call. No sorry. No question. And that told me even more. He did not ask, "Where are you?" He did not say, "Come back." That silence was an answer. It told me I was right to go. Now, I wake up and feel light. I make my own food. I clean my small room. I sit with tea in my hands and watch the sky change. I do not have much, but I have peace, and I have love for myself. I got sick, and he left me in my sickness. But in that pain, I found the truth. My sickness showed me his true heart, and I was brave enough to walk away.